G'day, fans, and welcome back to the final episode of DNA Reviews. We're here, it's the end of time, so to speak, because believe it or not, Docky Who has wrapped up. We're here to talk about an episode, and we'll be speaking so long. It's going to be like Sutek's snout. It's just going to keep going and going and going, I tell you what. And there will be whiskers at the end. We've got a long and detailed show because Aaron over there has gone completely troppo, making 50 billion slides. Mr. Aaron, how you doing, old son?
Sutek's Snout. That sounds like a good name for a band, doesn't it? It's been a long journey from Space Babies and the Devil's Chord to this point, but we got there in the end.
So for Sutek's Snout, the band, you go, what instrument do you play? And he pulls out a whisker and he goes, now. Oh my goodness. So yes, that's the quality of the episode you're going to be getting tonight, fans. So how good is that? So, Mr. Aaron, very, very quickly, the series is finally wrapped up. How you feeling? Are you feeling pumped and psyched and all the rest of it, or what?
I feel like I'm in an abusive relationship with a long-term TV show that has its ups and downs.
Oh my goodness gracious. Up and down like a fiddler's elbow. Absolutely fantastic. Greg's joined us. Docky Who, yes, for the last time. Gotta love your Docky Who, which is a very, very, very groovy. But yes, we are going to be discussing the last episode of the season. Yes, Empire of Death. Absolutely awesome stuff. As always, there will be spoilers, Mr. Aaron. We're going to be cutting loose on this one.
I know, and that spoiler logo is a spoiler in itself, really.
It is. Yes, it is indeedy doody doody. So there you go. But I tell you what, I don't think good old Sutek goes for Scooby snacks. But yeah, let's not worry about that, shall we? Yes,
Empire of Death, or the one in which the Doctor walks the dog.
Well, there's that too. Guess what? Hotline. Welcome from Ukraine. Oh, there you go. Actually, it's where.
Hey.
G'day, Ukraine. Yeah, hope you can handle the Australian humour that we've got here, and be sure to post your comments. I don't know what time it is in Ukraine, but it's good to see that you can join us, whoever that person happens to be, which is a very, very groovy. Well, anyway, if you're not watched any of these episodes before, and I don't think Hotline has, but if you're not aware of how we work, we do what we call the good, bad, and the ugly of the entire episode. We've been doing it for the whole season. For those who don't know, Aaron is the Docky Who expert. As for me, I'm just a sort of blow-in. I just push the buttons. But we're here to discuss the final episode, which is kind of groovy. We've been here for 8 weeks now. And as mentioned, it is the good, the bad, and the ugly. So we'd like to cover off what we think are positive things that we thought kind of didn't work. And the ugly is to refer to questions or comments or things that we're sort of like racking our brains over, Mr. Aaron. But what do you reckon? Do you reckon we should kick it off or what? Because we have got so much to cover. And just with that in mind, of course, you wanted to mention about the old Empire of Death itself.
I reckon it's going to be a long night, Dags. Last week, we discussed some of the theories of what might be coming up this week. There was lots of different things and lots of directions it could go. We don't go too much into theories because we don't want to actually really guess it and ruin anybody's enjoyment of the episode. But the one thing I will bring up before we go into the show, there's already been a lot of reviews on this episode, and a lot of them are really negative. And you've got also some polls there. I don't know if you can see them on last week's episode from Gallifrey Base, which is probably the biggest online Doctor Who community, and this week's. And you can see last week's got a much better general overall score. So as we're going through it, will we be bucking the trend and saying how amazing this is, or will we be going along with sort of the internet consensus of it's all right, or will we really lay the boots in? I don't know, but it's going to be an interesting night because there's a ton of stuff going on in this episode, and we're going to try and look at all of it.
So for those who can't see it, you probably can't. So I'm using the magnifying glass of truth. For Legend of Ruby Sunday from last week, it got 21 votes as being fantastic, 21% of the votes being fantastic, and Empire of Death only got like 7.5. So, but I mean, all things being equal, it's the kind of thing we have seen before in other TV shows and movies. When you create an episode of something that is so good, trying to follow it up with an episode equally as good is going to be quite difficult and a bit of a struggle, especially when you're trying to wrap everything up in one episode. But before we get to all of the nuts and bolts of it all, we're going to look at some of the goods. And this is what you've kicked it off with, Mr. Aaron, the dust of death.
The dust of death. I'll talk about that too. But it starts off I do like Mel on the moped with the doctor on the back. I do wonder, like you're out running a death dust, and you stop to put your helmets on.
I did think I did find that funny, actually. Yeah.
Safety first before you get killed by Sutek's dust. It was a good look. I did think it was a very good panic scene. It did remind me a bit of the Mummy, where you have the sands of death in that
Yes.
as well, and it was just as good. And for a TV show, the scene was good. It had a lot of extras, like getting sort of dissolved in the street kind of thing, and I thought that was good. So it was a good way to start it. I did think, the cliffhanger, it went straight into it. I bring Sutek's dust of
Mm.
death. Don't touch the dust, and the doctor just paralyzed there, and Mel has to drag him out of the way. I'm like, there's one thing. You had one job. What is he, Lindsay, who's forgotten how to walk properly?
Mm. What I did like at the start, and then I really analysed what was going on later on. But when the dust was going through unit, and they're all just dropping off the perch, and they're all turning into dust, I thought, oh, that's really, really cool. They're killing all these people off. But of course, the more they kill off, you realise, oh, hang on, this isn't going to last. They're going to bring them all back again. But at the start, initially, I thought, oh, that's a really interesting push to do
Yeah.
that. But and the tension worked, and of course, yeah, they're on the moped, the best bet flying around. And all these other people are dying. Yeah, right. It was a really well done sequence, and I've got to give them all kudos for it. So, but don't you worry, our heroes, they had nothing to fear. Is that right, Mr. Aaron?
Pretty much. We'll talk about that too. And we've gone to, they got to unit headquarters, and we entered the memory TARDIS. And last week, I don't know if we brought it up, the doctor said time is a memory and memory is time. So what is a
Yes.
time machine? And I think I brought up maybe the memory TARDIS, which has been a sort of device they've been using to show old episodes. It was part of the 60th anniversary, but this actually shows the creation of the memory TARDIS. And you know what? It's good, because as a Doctor Who fan, if you pause that, there is so many
Mm.
things in the background that are from old Doctor Who episodes. It's just pretty amazing. And I was really impressed how many things they managed to jam in there. So maybe not an amazing plot point, but just if you're a fan, an amazing thing to be able to look at.
Greg's kind of a good comment. It was like Thanos' blip from the MCU, where Thanos killed 50% of the entire universe, and they all came back later on, and 50
Yeah.
years after the fact. It's a similar principle, actually. I hadn't thought of that, but yes, it's the same
One of
sort of
one
deal.
of the slides coming up actually has got Thanos on. So because of that very reason, so Greg's really picked up on some of the stuff I was picking up on as well.
Cool. And got another new viewer here, PB Props. G'day, PB Props. Hello, saw you were live. Yes, we are. Even as we speak, we're live. That's just completely stupid from my point of view. Thought you'd lend some support during my break. Hope it's a 1.5 hour break, because we're going to be talking for a long time about this episode. But glad to see you could join us. We're still sticking with the good. So for those who've just joined us, we do the good, the bad, and the ugly. We're sticking with the goods at the moment regarding the last episode. Keep going, old son.
I did think the confrontations between the Doctor and Sutek were good. He has a really good evil voice when he's saying, "We meet
Yes.
again, my old friend." We were sort of talking about how this is a sci-fi trope, though, with Vader and Obi-Wan, and Dags mentioned Khan. And I thought it was a good scene that while the Sutek is talking to the Doctor, you've also got the screen actually showing the old Doctor
Yeah.
and Sarah. And I do like, rather than tell, show. So they were actually showing what was happening rather than the Doctor just relating it. And I thought that was good, because they'd already worked in the TV screen into the script. So it wasn't like it was just jacked in to do that. It was sort of identical. So I'll give them a thumbs up for that. I thought that was a good scene.
Yeah, there's a fair bit of retrospective look within the past 2 episodes of old Doctor Who stories. And yeah, even I thought, oh, that's really groovy that they've done that. Now, I, of course, not knowing the real history of the show, connected it, but didn't connect with it. But I realized it's obviously like Pyramids of Mars or something.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, with Tom Baker and all that. And I thought, oh, that was, yeah, very, very good. Well done. And I agree with you, because they already had the screen. It worked out well. Where it gets a bit convoluted is trying to wrap my head around what's going on. And when you said the memory TARDIS, I go, okay, I'm trying to get a hold of that. Suddenly there's two TARDISes. I'm having a Ken Bruce has gone mad moment trying to put it all together. But I thought, okay, I'll just go with it. I'll watch it again, like maybe about an hour before we went on air. And I was like, I'm trying to get my head around it. And I thought, nah, I need Aaron to explain it all to me. But it is all good, because as we see, Sutek clung to his infernal machine. Is that right there, Mr. Aaron?
He did, which is it's a lot of references, but it reminds me of Indiana Jones, the Infernal Machine, actually. But yeah, he traveled like so. I've got this in the good because at least they explain it. This is a very exposition heavy episode
Yes.
as well, which if you're not following it, you can lose it pretty quick. But the Doctor thought he defeated Sutek in the 70s by ejecting him into the vortex, but do you know that pesky Sutek? He held onto the TARDIS and didn't let go, and has been traveling with the TARDIS for 50 years, growing more and more powerful and influencing time and space. So that's one persistent puppy, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that too. Two things have come up. Shane has said, did the memory TARDIS get created from memories that make no sense? And before you answer that question, got another person from Ukraine. We're very popular in Ukraine at the moment. So Morio, I think it's pronounced. So well done, guys. It's all good. But yes, regarding Shane's question, hang on, did it from memories? Yeah, what was Shane's question? Yeah, is that true or not?
Well, the Doctor when he first sees it, it's phasing in and out, and then he actually says to Ruby one of the weirdest lines in science fiction. It's something like "Remember as hard as you can" or something like,
Yes.
and when he says that, it solidifies. I do think it's kind of falling apart. That's some of the plot where they're trying to hold it together. In the end, I think it actually is made for real out of memories. It disappears because Sutek transports them out of the TARDIS at the end, or it disappears. But we've seen that the other Doctors in the specials kind of come in and out of it as well. So I do presume it's made from Ruby's memories. But how does she remember all the other stuff in there? That's the question, I guess.
Yeah, I think if you really analyze the dialogue, because there was a lot, as you said, to take in about the whole the memory TARDIS pops up in the room. You do wonder if there are holes in there. Someone says that doesn't make sense. That part is nah, that's wrong. But I mean, it's presented that quickly, and there's so much going on. Your brain it's just like, oh, okay, there's another TARDIS. It's a memory TARDIS. Done. Okay, I'm good. I'll move on. So, but I do wonder if they've really analysed it to the nth degree and go, oh yeah, we've got all of our bases covered and plot holes looked after. So, but either way, it is what it is. It's a memory TARDIS. Now, this is. I'm going to show you this picture. I'm going to comment on this. But away go, old son.
And again, I do like how they are trying to answer some of the stuff from the whole series. So Sutek actually said he saw inside the TARDIS and there were so many secrets, and he started to use them to form traps for the Doctor. So he did the TARDIS technologies, which would get the Doctor's interest. And then he called his sort of creation Susan, because that was another level of trap. And you've actually got a colorized clip from the 60s of the original Susan, the Doctor's granddaughter there. So that's another up for me. Usually, do you know what? I'm pretty shallow. If they show stuff from the original series, I'm always going to like it because I just grew up with it and love it.
So the concept of the story that Sutek's been on the TARDIS this entire time, and wherever the TARDIS lands, he drops off a version of himself, and they got that spatial filter, the perception filter going
Perception
on.
filter.
Does
Yep.
all that make sense as far as you're concerned? Do you go, that is an awesome concept, or you just go, nah, that's complete trite? I mean, does it work for you or not? It's a thumbs up.
Nah,
Oh,
that's a
oh,
that's a
really?
load. That's a load of crap. How come we're not in the bad yet? But seeing you've asked, he's been traveling around with him for 50 years, dropping off people. How come only this season that he's managed to see her in every single episode? It is contrived, I think, and I do think it doesn't make a lot of sense because they're saying wherever she is, they drop her off, and she's for real. She has a family and everything, which means wherever the Doctor lands, she's what, in her mid-50s or late or
Mm,
early 60s. It has to be She has to be crowbarred into time and have a family that goes retrospectively back, and everything around her changes, and it
okay.
doesn't make much sense to me. If you don't think about it, it's a cool idea. If you start thinking about the logistics of it, it's a load of old rubbish.
Yeah, Shane's agreed with you. It makes no sense as well. I thought, oh, that's really pushing the envelope a little bit on a concept. And you think of all the alien worlds that have occurred. Anyway, yeah, it'll probably come up in the bads later on, but it was just something that had me scratching my head going, oh, okay, good old Sutex just dropping his load off wherever he goes. So there you
Yeah, yeah.
go.
And then I guess I did like one of the things we've discussed this whole series is maybe the Doctor's been portrayed as too much of a snag, sensitive new age guy. And in this one, I did think the Doctor had some, I guess, some weight behind him where he wasn't treating everything as, oh, this is fun and we're flitting around having a fantastic time. He did get serious and he said, I will stop you, and I swear on both my hearts and everything that I will defeat you. So
Yeah.
finally Shooty's doctor sort of is grounded and taking things seriously. So that was a good for me.
I missed this one from PB Props. I do apologise. It popped up earlier. I tuned in after 11 years away, and I thought, what, tuned in to us? We haven't been on for 11 years, but then I realised you're talking about Doctor Who because of Sutek. Yep, fair enough. And I have to say that visually there were some nice pieces, but you have to be able to join them logically, which didn't appear to be the case, as we're sort of starting to see now. So some bits are sort of like falling apart at the seams. But I've got to say, even though after the presence of Sutek last week, and we said in our review, it looked a little bit too digital, too CG. This time he kind of got away with it. You got used to it, and you go, yeah, it's all good. And of course, yeah, it's when we're now referencing back to previous episodes about the old 73 yards. I actually thought that was quite good. It's good to see that there was a purpose for that episode, which was a good episode. And the fact it got referenced here, I thought was kind of groovy.
Well, it's one of those things where they tried to explain everything, but they still didn't exactly explain everything from 73 yards. But I'll give them props that through the whole series they were thinking about it and they're trying to make it work. It's just I did find, okay, the explanations were coming, and the more you think about them, the more ridiculous they are. But I tell you what, Ruby's so super special. It'll all work out in the end when we find out all about her, won't it, Dags?
Yeah, we'll get to that later on. I was going to say, so does that? Oh, because I thought interpreted this to say, and when we saw 73 yards and we saw the Ruby in the distance, and we couldn't, the old Ruby, and we couldn't work out what she was. Everybody was freaking out when they saw her. I thought, are they actually seeing a representation of Sutek there? That's how I interpreted that bit of dialogue. That's why they were freaking out.
It was one of those things that was quite weird, because when we've seen 73 yards, but they don't remember that. That happened and then it disappeared. And so Ruby was seeing the woman at 73 yards away. So I was like, oh, is Ruby going to turn out to be the TARDIS or a TARDIS, or is the woman going to turn out to be a TARDIS, because that's where the perception filter puts someone. So I was thinking maybe Ruby is going to be special because she is, a human version of the TARDIS or something like that. So I was not on the same wavelength as the writer, though.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Because I was just thinking that, when people ran off screaming in 73 yards, what did they see? They mentioned the 73 yards here. Oh, maybe they saw Sutek, but yeah, that obviously wasn't the case. But that's the conclusion I came with. But yeah, anyway, not to worry.
Yeah. I really did think Bonnie Langford as Mel did a good job in this episode. It was great to see Sutek channeling his full-on Eye of Sauron with I See You. And again, what I thought was fantastic was it was subtle. It was him whispering and very sort of I see you. And I did think he took her over straight away, but he didn't, because he was actually talking to her later saying, don't resist me, Mel, I can see them and don't resist me. And then I guess she has the flash where she looks like the skeleton, but I think she doesn't die until she freezes or something in the future. But I did think it was her character was very well served these two episodes, I thought.
Yep, totally agree. I mean, you do wonder if some makeup artists were looking at the makeup for how the people were turned into, like the death mask or whatever it is, and going, oh my God, that's really, really crap, or whether it looks really, really good. I mean, at face value, it does look like they haven't done it properly, but because they did it consistently across all the characters, you can kind of say that's how it's meant to be. But typically when someone wears a different face, it's like it's integrated into the real face, and you can't tell where the real face is and the fake face starts. But here it's really, really obvious. So it's obviously meant to represent the skull or something. So it was just one of those things that I pick up and I thought, oh, geez, that looks really kind of cheap and corny, but it kind of works because the others are like that. Yeah.
I reach all over pop culture and I see links where there aren't any. But what it really remind me of, and this is appropriate, it remind me of the opening title sequence of Live and Let Die. And Live and Let Die actually really works for this episode. Yeah. You have the girl and she's a skull and stuff like that. So and Baron Samedi or whatever it was. So I do think that they weren't thinking that at all, but I see influences everywhere in this stuff.
because you know what, you're a nerd. PB said, nah, looks silly. Yeah, it didn't work for it. So yeah, fair enough. Which is fair enough too. So it's just one of those things. It's like, just make it look dodgy, but be consistently dodgy. It'll all be good. So they say. Anyway, so nothing worse than it's like being having a vichyssoise that's served too cold. You know, your Batman Returns.
Well, yes. Well, I did think as well that I did think it was good that the Doctor was shown as actually smart and things were happening rather than stuff happening around him, which happened in a lot of episodes this series. When he touched Mel, he realized that she was too cold, so she was dead and being animated by Sutek, or half dead, as they kind of say, one of his other minions. And they form a plan where I think there's quite a good showdown where the Doctor's like, no, don't give him this, don't give him this, and Ruby goes up to give it, and then smashes the tablet and shows that they're actually working against Sutek. So I thought that was good. Didn't see that coming.
It's kind of funny that anybody who's worked in IT or anything with technology, you'd be amazed at how a screen is unbelievably resilient to smashing, right? You could just drop it and they just bounce, right? They're as unbelievably tough. And it would have been funny if it just goes bang, 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 and you can still see the text on the screen. So the fact that it actually physically went,
you would appreciate this was actually a magic screen too, because I think it was a cathode ray tube TV. I'm not sure. And the Doctor just sonic screwdriver around the edge and pulled it out and it kept working. And I'm like, that's amazing.
Actually, I did find it funny when they go to 2024 and you're on the desk and you got that arm stick and he just goes clunk, and I go, hang on, you've just introduced 1960s technology to 2024 technology and it's all just worked. What about plugging in some, the composite cables or something? I was like, yeah. But I laughed at that point. I was like, yep, that's just like bing, and he goes, oh, it works. It was like, yeah, right.
Well, obviously it's not made by Apple if it integrates other systems straight into it that easily.
Yeah, no, I agree. PB, don't look at the logic. Where's the tube on the back? So how did it? Yeah, I know. We're just gonna have to let that one slide. It was like it's a cathode ray tube that somehow works as a flat screen. So we'll let that one slide to the keeper. But or it could have been. He tries to pick it up. It's, oh my god, this thing is so heavy. You've got to laugh. We move on. There we go. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, it definitely is magic. Guess what? Well, as I say in the show, like, dude, I'm looking at you and saying, dude, I love you. You love me, because everybody loves everybody in this episode. Now, before you go any further, for whatever reason, on my Facebook feed tonight, I've got a thing recommended to you regarding Stephen Moffat talking about this series, and apparently, was it Millie did not want to say I love you in this episode, and Russell T Davies made her. So I don't know if you knew that or not, or whether you read that or not.
I've read the ending was changed around a bit, and we will discuss this more later, because as you can see, we've got right through the episode with not a heap of goods. But you know what I'm going to say? I did think it was a good departure for a companion. Love her or hate her, I really loved her. I thought she was one of the best things this year. I did think it was a good farewell. It was a better than a lot of farewells, and they actually gave it some time to breathe, and it was obviously she wanted to stay, but she had priorities with her family as well, and then wanted the Doctor to stay with her. And you don't do that, do you? He's like, no, I don't do families. He said that before. So I did think of companion farewells, she was given a pretty good one.
Yeah, I agree. It was actually a touching moment in the show, and I think of the two of them, she was definitely the better performer, and the sequence was better for it. And you can understand her scenario. Oh my God, I've just discovered the mother, trying to find the father. What do you do? What do you do? Do I travel the universe with this dude, or do I go and reconnect with people I've been trying to chase with down for such a long period of time? It was really well done. It was really well thought out. And I thought I gave her a good exit from the show. They have said that Ruby will be coming back sometime in the future, or at least referenced in the future. And I did like I was kind of thinking it's a shame that they didn't have a moment. And of course, you didn't need this. But you know how he says that he'll see her again. And it would be funny if it was like 73 yards, where it's 20-something years in the future and she's got a career and she's doing a fantastic things. A complete contrast to her future in 73 yards, where she was just all alone and just looking at the woman outside the door. Imagine she had a career, a family, the whole thing, and the Doctor appears as himself, as he does now, and she's aged accordingly. I reckon that would have been a touching moment, but clearly they couldn't put that in. But that would have worked. That would have been really fantastic.
You know where she'll be in the future? Yeah. She'll be working with UNIT, with every other effer who's not qualified but gets a job there.
Yeah, no, but I mean, you can get the point though. So, but by the same token, it would have been a bit corny because you've just finished a good sequence and perhaps wrapped it up with a corny sequence. But I would have thought it would have been quite good. But
Yeah.
PB said he's got a time machine that doesn't matter other than contention. She could go back and have. She could go back and have after having adventures. Well, yeah, that's exactly true. So, but as mentioned in the show, the old docky who can only visit certain spots. He can't go back and revisit places he's been to previously. But yeah, you are right. As for a finale for the episode, it was really well done and good to them. Guess what, fans? That's the end of the goods. My goodness, unlike last week where we had that many goods, I tell you what, it was like they were just coming out of our ear roll. Now, all of a sudden, guess what? We're going to be heading into the bads. And before we do that, okay, we got another person joining us. Cause NY Nego. I don't know how to pronounce that. Why the doctor just didn't skip past the future to pick her up later after she deals with her family stuff. Why the farewell? Wait for season 2 or season 15, whichever floats your boat. So
there's more important questions like that. I don't know if you noticed, the world's just been destroyed and come back. Yet they still managed to get pizza that afternoon.
Mate, tell you what, you can't knock a good Vegas Supreme in family size. Speaking of the world coming back, here we go. The bads, Mr. Aaron.
Yeah, so there's a lot of bads this time round, and as you can see, there's Thanos down there because the whole dust of death has really just been done with the Thanos click, and Greg said it earlier, and I did think, there's nothing wrong if you take the classics sometimes, but as soon as they did the dust of death, I was thinking, reminds me of the mummy, reminds me of the Infinity Wars, the end of the Infinity Wars. And I did think the other thing, the dust of death, I did think, I bring Sutek's dust of death. It would have been much better if Sutek had said something like evil, like the sands of time have run out for everyone and I bring my gift of death. I know. I mean, and it's not perfect, but the dust of death just sounds dumb.
Look, you are right. It has been done. Excuse me, before in other shows, and I was just thinking about it. Then it would have been interesting if the dust of death was actually invisible and people just start dying and they're just turning into dust, but you don't see why, and you can't actually physically see the thing occurring. Now, no, cinematically you kind of need to, because when you see the Earth, Australia, in fact, good old Australia. Hang into it all we can before the dust comes and consumes us. You're covering the Earth. I kind of got that. I guess they needed a representation to say this stuff is dangerous and it's going to kill everybody. They must have thought.
So one of Sutek's acolytes should have put their hand out, and like someone pulled a finger and they go, "It's silent but deadly," and then everyone just.
You pulled a finger, bloody. Actually, kind of funny to pull it off and go, that's not what's supposed to happen. So from a visual perspective, you kind of needed it. We just have to deal with it. Look, kind of. I know people turn into us and yada yada. You're just too cynical, dude. What can I say? So yes.
So this again, I'm putting in the bad, and it was what you pulled up earlier. I think it had a lot of impact when the unit people started dying. But then as soon as everyone died, not a single person watching thought that they weren't going to come back.
Yeah.
Even Tennille, my wife, we were watching, she goes, I was shocked they killed Kate, but she said, but now everyone's dying. I just know she's going to come back. So upping the ante so much actually just got rid of all the tension. Like you said, you knew straight away everyone was going to come back. So that's a big bad, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that kind of disconnected me from the episode, because I thought, oh well, they're all going to be returning before the end of the season, and that's kind of sad. Yeah. Now, before I go any further, a guy mentioned sentient sand here like that. In another time and place, it would have been interesting, and of course they can't do this for the series because it wouldn't work from a narrative perspective, that they stay dead for a long period of time, a bit like what happened in the MCU, and the Doctor's running around the universe with Ruby freaking out because he can't fix this particular problem. But the fact they introduced the problem so quickly and resolved it so quickly, it was like, oh, they're all back to being healthy again in the space of what would be only a matter of hours, effectively. So it's a shame they couldn't make it longer. So if it had have occurred at the start of the series, right, like 8 episodes ago, everybody carks it and they're going to spend 8 episodes trying to resolve the issue. That would have been interesting to say how close do they find a solution to this problem, not just automatically, we've got the problem, let's introduce the solution and they're good to go. So I felt that was a bit of a downside to the episode. It was a little too simple in the grand scheme of things. It was just a question of, because always with a lot of series, especially 2-part episodes, and I was going to mention this last week when Legend of Ruby Sunday finished, in the writer's room, they'd be sitting, okay, we've introduced this massive problem. How do we fix it? And how do we fix it in the space of one episode? And you've got to cut corners everywhere just to get the resolution. And that can sometimes be a bit of a downer.
Yeah.
And in this case, I think it was. Yeah. Sorry, dude. Go for it.
No problem. No, you've covered everything I was going to say. So yes, you've had the unit people. I don't know if we've got the slides out of order. That's probably my fault. You've got the unit people, and I did think it was crazy that you've got them all firing at the TARDIS.
Yeah.
And you've got the guy on the Segway who's shorter than everyone firing from the back. And I'm like, he's going to just be shooting everybody in the back. But the really weird one is Rose is not even flinching. She's just sitting there on an iPad, checking the iPad. And I was just like, that would be what my son was doing. Totally realistic. Doesn't care what's going on. But seriously, if you're all about to die and there's machine guns and lasers and everywhere, why is Rose on the iPad? I just didn't get that.
You are so out of touch. They're shooting the shit out of Gold Sutek, and she's sitting there going, mate, if I put this on my Instagram account and they'll check out my latest feed, get a load of that. Get some likes and some subscriptions.
A million likes. That's what she was
This
thinking.
is happening live now in unit. Look at this. We're shooting Sutek. How good. You are so behind the time, dude. I like the fact that the little dude on the Segway, he's had machine guns. As you said, he's got machine guns in his freaking Segway. And I thought, well, he's so short, maybe shoot between the legs of everybody. But I thought, why has he got machine guns in his Segway? What the hell's the deal with that? So unbelievable.
Yeah. And this, he's meant to be 13. And this is the series that they just replaced the sonic screwdriver with, like this compact, because they don't want kids playing with guns.
That is a good point. He's 13 years old and he's got weapons in his friggin' Segway. That's a good point, actually. So, that's a very good observation. A few comments coming through. PB, once again, in a finale like this, ending the universe done to death now. Yeah, we know that. Where to go next? Definitely. How do you top that for the next season? Story arc like this, so 1999. That's very, very true. Shane said, not sure what happened that way. Russell T. Davies has an idea, Sutek on the TARDIS, then he makes a story around the idea. No writers reveal basics. I was being a little bit facetious. You create this massive, really unsolvable problem, and then you've got to solve the problem. And typically, to solve the problem, you've got to cut corners, as I mentioned earlier, and sometimes you cut them a bit too much, and you've got to do it quickly too. A lot of TV series have that issues. She's playing Heyday, looking at how she's slouching. I reckon that's who's the lady you're talking about. Mate, she's just boosting her Instagram likes. What can I say? No tension in the neck of the woods, yeah. And here we go. Another person calls. Yeah. Aaron's definitely not a Gen Z. You don't think so, mate? I'm from 90. I was born in the 60s, and even I know what she was doing. So,
yeah, like if she's not playing an Atari 2600, I have no idea what's going on.
Mate, she's got to press two buttons, like and subscribe. Exactly right. Anyway, we move on. So in the memory room, right, we're still stuck down there. We've got two TARDISes floating around now, which is kind of groovy. And Sutek is not a happy camper.
So this is where it starts getting really weird. It's like, every living thing is an abomination. And every time we landed in every single world, my angels of death, I birthed there. And then they started showing, the one I've put up on the screen there is the Death Zone in Gallifrey. I'm like, the Death Zone, But they showed stuff. This won't mean anything to you, Dags. They showed stuff from City of Death, which was the TARDIS on Earth back when life was about to be created. And I was like, so suddenly there's no life on Earth, but you've got a Sue triad who pops up there all by herself. It makes absolutely no sense. It's just like really, it's just this convoluted plan that doesn't make any sense. And like I was saying earlier, we kind of covered it. The TARDIS has been traveling around for 50 years with Sutek, and everywhere they land, he puts a Susan triad. And it's only every episode this season that we notice, and never anything up until this point. Now, I would give them props if for 50 years they'd got the same actress and she was an extra in every single episode. But wouldn't it have been maybe better if this was at the end of 3 years and they just used the same actress for no reason for 3 years instead of one season? It might. I don't know.
Dude, mate, let's take it as read that whenever the TARDIS parks itself on a planet, Sutek has to drop his bundle, lose his load, so to speak. Then whatever happens.
Because he's a dog, the doctor has to go out with the bag and scoop it back up and take it away with him.
That's not. Oh, jeez, dude. It's like, who's been leaving? He's been cocking his leg on the side of the TARDIS, and you go, "What the hell is he staying? Oh, where are we going
That
with
would
this?"
explain.
Anyways,
That
you
would
know what?
explain in 73 yards why Ruby says you're not having a pee round here, are you, Doctor?
Well, now we know why the Doctor's reacting like this, because now he knows what the stain on the side of the TARDIS is. So once again, the Doctor's waterworks. And now, to be fair, if he had never cried in all the previous episodes, and because it became a running gag, oh, hang on, he's going to like let loose the waterworks again. This moment would have been grouse, because he really lets loose his aggression and he's upset and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But because we've seen it all before, it was a kind of a bit weak. So yeah.
Well, the Doctor cries. The Doctor
Yes,
cries 4 times in this episode, which is a record. But we've discussed it before. If he didn't cry, when he did, it would have much more impact. But
yes.
now it's just the Doctor Who crying drinking game. Every time the Doctor cries, slam down, And in this episode,
Yes.
you'd be paralytic by the 35-minute mark. But anyway, he's seen the universe destroyed before. I mean, it isn't unique in Doctor Who where all the planets and stars go out. And he didn't cry any of the other times.
I don't know if you got a picture of it. I don't think you do. I like the idea. We saw this, funnily enough, with the 13th Doctor, where you can open the doors of the TARDIS and like be underwater and all this sort of stuff and look outside, which I thought was really good. So in this, he opens the doors of the TARDIS and they're in space, and I thought that's cool. But he sits on the edge and his legs hang over the edge. How's that work? I thought you have to at least be within the door frame. Did
No,
they break a rule there with that?
No, there's a bubble that goes around the TARDIS. They've sat on the roof a couple of times as well and had
Okay.
ice creams and things like that. So it isn't a precedent there. It is a rule that I think change. It's more of a guideline than a rule.
Very good.
So yeah, that isn't something that has never been done before. They have done that before.
Yeah, no, very cool. But I did like the idea there, seeing all the planets all being destroyed and blah, 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 blah. Good old Sutek, I'll tell you what, he knew how to weave his magic, didn't he? Make a complete mess of absolutely everything. Shane has said, Russell T. Davies has said he insists that Shooty Cry is in touch with his emotions, unlike us older men. That's fine, but don't do it every freaking episode. I mean, you'd have to think even the actors thought, oh, shit, do I have to do it again? And it just weakened everything, because one thing about doing an emotional scene in any TV series is if you do it sparingly and when it's really justified, as you said, it makes a lot more sense. You go, wow, we're really sharing the emotion with the guy. But when it occurs all the time, you just go, oh, come on, man. Grow a pair, son. No, in this instance, he had it all. Hang on. Even in this instance, he was completely within his rights to completely Burko, because the whole universe had died. Yeah, sorry, dude, go for it.
Imagine if Mr. Spock had cried in every episode. I'm emotionless, but I cry. When he did cry, it meant something, huge. It is one of those things where the Doctor is like almost a god because he's so old amongst mortals, and this regeneration, he's been more of a Captain Jack than a Time Lord to me. So it's been disappointing.
PB said they played with the shields back in Tom Baker's era, Horns of Nimon, if you recall correctly. So, okay, there you go. So, anyway, that's cool. At least we've got it explained. I didn't know you could do it. So, yep, I consider myself to be educated. Very, very cool.
Yep, and this is where it starts getting me. The universe stands silent, yet one thing persists. Is it the is it the Doctor, the Time Lord? No, someone even greater than him. The child, the secret the child carries. So we're really building up this big revelation of the secret that Ruby is carrying. And if I was a writer, unless I had something that was like really going to knock everyone's socks off, I wouldn't be hyping it this much. But do you know what? Let's trust Russell T. Davies. Surely the parentage of Ruby is going to be absolutely amazing, isn't it, Dags?
Yeah, what could possibly go wrong? And just quickly, we only saw it a couple of times, but I thought when you looked at the profile of Sutek on the side, he looked really good. We didn't see it enough. We only just saw him front on, but I thought from the side, it was actually very, very effective. So yeah,
Dags, that actually, if you go back, that isn't actually the profile of Sutek. That's a curved mountain, and the ears are actually Jack Skeleton and Sally standing.
Shoot me down in flames. Yeah, good for you. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. I liked it. All right, so you can blow it out your ass.
I did.
Now this bit, go on. This bit I did not get. We've cut from one piece, I can't remember what the previous bit was, to this bit, and I go, did we miss a bit? And that's when the Doctor ends up on this planet. Where is he? What's the deal with this?
I should have just put bad, 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 bad across the whole thing, because this whole sequence um, made no sense to me as a Doctor Who fan. Now you do this thing with Doctor Who where sometimes they put in characters that are alluded to be from the Doctor's past or something, and there's all debate online about what could it be, but it's usually not such a big sequence, and it's usually not so important to the whole of the story. They're like, Sutek brings death. Where does it say, I bring Sutek's gift of death and destroy all the metal from the universe? I mean, there's all this really weird stuff in this episode that hasn't been addressed. Now, I kind of think that, and again, I don't think you watched the Jodie Whittaker stuff, so you won't know
No.
what I'm talking about. I kind of think this was meant to be the timeless child, and I do think in some draft or whatever, the baby would have been alive or something, and they would have sent the baby to another universe to escape the Sutek death wave, as they're now calling it. And then coming back to this universe, it would be the timeless child or something like that. But I can't understand, without, drawing a really long bow as to what it could actually be, why they put this sequence in. You had Sutek and the Doctor and the TARDIS, and then all of a sudden he's walking through, and everyone's meant to be dead, yet there's caravans going through that are going to look for food and stuff. And now they explain that you don't have to be touched by the dust anymore. It can go backwards through generations and stuff like that. I was just like, is this because the TARDIS landed in the past? So Sue Triad in the past is releasing dust in the past and something like that. But it was one of those things that I do think in another series, which is a bit more, I don't know, a bit more maybe Black Mirror or a bit more Twilight Zone, it works. But Doctor Who, you need to have fundamental explanations for the stuff that's going on, and this one just lost me.
I'll just quickly, I know he's already departed. PB just said before he goes back to work, so clearly not the other part of the world. Nice to look at. Don't think it was about it too much, just like most shows in a way. Yep, fair enough. And PB has since departed, just in case he ends up watching us on replay. I like the sequence with the woman. I really did. It really worked for me. It's like, the baby's dying, blah, 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 blah. I had no problem with it. I just didn't understand why it was there. And I can't understand, hang on, why is the Doctor walking through this bloody planet with this hood on? That it was just like it was like meant for another series. They just chucked it in. It really was cockeyed. But I thought the actual moment between him and her, and I liked the woman actually. I thought she was really good. But that was weird. I thought if you cut that out altogether, the world continues on as normal. And the thing is, he gets the spoon. Makes a big thing about saying he's going to use it. What was the deal with the spoon? I don't recall that being used ever again, unless I missed something. Oh, okay. He has to get. Right, he has to get the moon to get the metal to stick into the TV. But you could have easily bypassed that, and the TV thing just worked. But yeah, fair enough.
Are you telling me though that there is no metal in all that junk that's in the TARDIS that could be used? I was hoping there would be an explanation where they say something.
Yeah, because the dust dissolves all the metal, as you said, as well as the human beings. Yeah, good point. Yeah, go on. Sorry, go on. Go for it, dude.
where they go, where they try to do something in the memory TARDIS, and the Doctor is like, this is all memory, so it's not real. We need something real, and the TARDIS has just got one trip and can make it to this planet where there's hardly any metal or something. But I'm making stuff up in my head to justify the story. Like, I promise I'll use this spoon. I mean, that's just some weird dialogue happening right there.
Pretty funny if the woman said, "Oh, you're gonna use the spoon? That's awesome!" And then because he snaps it, and he's like, he's supposed to keep it meat and box, dude." Anyway, so yeah, it was just a bizarre moment, and I think that was just a quick get out of jail free card story. Get the story moving. Sorry, dude.
There could have been a great joke, because you saw Mel in the TARDIS and she was kind of getting comfort from hugging her older Doctor's costumes. There was the 6th and 7th Doctor. And I thought what would have been really funny, the Doctor comes in and would have said, "I found it. I got what I want, a spoon." And Mel would have said, "What, one of these?" and just pulled it out of the 7th Doctor's costume, because he used to play the spoons all the time.
See. Missed a moment there too, and I wasn't aware of whose outfits you were looking at, but yeah, you are right. You look around the room, and I think the Tom Baker scarf was there and all that, and yeah, so that was actually very, very groovy. So good stuff.
Yeah. So you've got Doctor and Ruby playing with their toys, because it actually looks like almost an unproduced character options Jodie Whittaker TARDIS playset that they're sitting around there. And they're like, why did Sutek appear on Ruby Road? And they start getting responses from the screen. So what they're kind of asking, the screen is giving them the answers, and they work out they can get answers from it. So you start getting the ask something and the screen will reply. So they're talking about Sutek, and it shows Sutek, and it shows the Doctor and Sarah, and it also shows the mother. One of the things I thought was bad, Ruby asks who those are, the Doctor and Sarah, and the Doctor doesn't turn around and say, well, that was me, and that was one of my companions, like, from years ago. He goes, they were some people that used to travel in the TARDIS. And I was like, he's just been saying to Mel, wasn't it great when we were in the TARDIS? We met Einstein and all these people. Yeah, I don't know why he was not mentioning that was the Doctor and Sarah Jane. It was just a weird moment.
Yeah, no, fair enough too. Either that, or maybe it's a ploy to say, don't say it was a previous docky, because then people go, oh, I want to watch that Doctor Who. Where do I find that on Disney Plus? I can't. I've got to go somewhere else. I'm desubscribing from Disney Plus now.
That can't be an old Doctor. He's not crying.
Oh, dear. But yes, it would have been a nice thing to say, oh, yeah, that was Sarah Jane. She was another version of you, effectively, which would have been kind of cool. Okay, Ruby's asking all these logical questions and not getting really good responses. But anyway.
Well, this is a bit of a comedy one. It's like...
Yeah, I did. I had a feeling this was a joke. Yeah.
Like, there was something that confused Sutek, and he was baffled, and it was beyond his comprehension. He's obviously just sat down and binged the Jodie Whittaker era of Doctor Who.
But you are right. At this point, everything's hinging around who the hell's Ruby's mother, right? It's a big thing, right? And it's like, clearly she's the power of the universe. The Sutek's losing his load over this, trying to figure it out. Who's this particular woman who's completely shrouded? You can't say anything. She's pointing at something. And once again, you could almost think, oh my God, this could be the greatest reveal of all time. And of course, it's heading into a really, really cocky, sort of bizarre territory. And of course, as I said, Sutek is kind of getting completely nuts. What's the deal with that?
I know. He's gone from the Sutek, the god of death, to Sutek, the I don't know, like, wants to know everyone's gossip. It's one woman. He's been riding on the TARDIS, the back of the TARDIS, beholding all of time and space. The god. But if the gods are scared of her, this is the thing I don't get, Dags, because we go back to the Devil's Cord, and you even had Jinx Monsoon, who was the maestro, saying, oh, there's something special about you. Your song's totally different. Yeah. Like, I'm not touching you. You're dangerous, kind of thing. And so I'm really getting hyped up now, because that god was scared of her. Sutek is intrigued and doesn't know what the deal is. Couldn't see the mother's face and needs to see her, needs to know what was going on. So we're getting hyped up and hyped up and hyped up here.
Yeah, they're dangling a lot of carrots. And when, as you said, the death dude of the universe can't work out who she is, that's like, wow, this is really cool. And you would have thought, logically, Ruby has to be the offspring of some super powerful blah, right? And, and they're certainly hinting at that. And but we'll cover those off as we go along. Once again, 73 yards sort of makes a bit of a reappearance regarding the Prime Minister dude who had all the nuclear weapons and effectively destroyed the world, if I recall. But DNA for the whole population.
This is stupidly bad, because they're from a time where Sutek has destroyed everything. So in this timeline, if they go into the future, Roger Ap Williams won't be there, because he's gone. He's dead. The Earth is gone. And they've actually shown that. They showed when they were in the Devil's Cord, Ruby says, well, what happens if we go to the future, like with no music? And they go to the future, and it's not... The Doctor has said, and they do try and get around it by going, it's a fixed point, because if I've landed there, like, it can't be changed. But they go forward into the future where Ruby was from, and the whole of London is destroyed because they didn't do anything in the past. So you can't come a couple of episodes later and go, well, the Prime Minister in 2046 DNA tested everyone, so we can go to the future and get the DNA tests, because he's dusted.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, it's contradicting itself. And
Yeah.
because he has landed in the future, it doesn't add up. Even I thought that it's like, and like how Ruby says, but everybody's dead, and they just come off this offhanded line to say, "No, we've been here before. It's all good." And I go, "Hang on, that was definitely a." Russell T sitting there going, "I need to get out of jail free card." Oh, hang on, I've established this in a previous episode. You can't do it. Stuff that. People have forgotten about that episode. We're now going to rewrite the rules for this episode. Yeah, it didn't make a great deal of sense. Yes.
Do you know who doesn't forget? Doctor Who fans don't forget.
They do not, as noted here.
Yes, so the Doctor says they get out of it, which I think is bad as well because it's convoluted writing to get around a rule they've broken. Yes, but it's preserved because once I've landed somewhere, it's fixed. No, that's absolutely not true. We're doing a Pyramids of Mars sequel where they do that very thing where Sarah says, "I'm from 1980," and they go for the future and it's gone, and the Doctor's been there heaps of times. So I don't know. I just think it's a mistake, and I just think, like you said, they've put up this huge, big, killed everyone, and they have to get them back somewhere else. So they're just writing themselves out of it any way they can.
Yeah, and rationally, if everybody died in 2024, then clearly no one did the DNA testing, so it could be on record in 2044 or whatever it was, so 46. So, totally agree with you. Greg's put down a comment. It's a long one. I will get to it in a second because we are going to reference that particular point. So sit
If
tight.
don't get to it, we'll come back to it in the ugly because we are going to have a talk about that as well.
Yeah, no worries. Sorry, that's regarding Greg's comment. So we'll get back to that very, very soon. Yep, no worries.
And then the Doctor's got his whistle, which was just like magically fell out of a drawer. And I reckon the writers were having a good joke. A dog whistle, wibbly wobbly. Yeah, that's what I like. They talk about that in the 60th anniversary special where they talk about wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, and the more senior Doctor goes, "You're talking like children. What does that mean?" kind of thing.
Yes,
because
yes.
it's the answer to everything. But I do think the writers were having a joke. The Doctor's got a whistle, a dog whistle, and what does the whistle do? It opens up a laser cannon in the TARDIS we've never freaking seen before. If it was the Eye of Harmony, what they've done before or something like that, maybe. But I was just thinking this is getting more and more convoluted as we go along.
So the whistle has never been a part of a Doctor's paraphernalia throughout all the decades at all. You can't say, "Oh, there's an episode where there's a whistle," that they can refer back
There's
to.
one episode, I think the Two Doctors, where the Doctor whistles and the TARDIS materializes. But that was a joke for that episode kind of thing.
Yeah, and I thought, what are the chances? You are right. There's this laser beam pops out, and I forgot the name of the character staring right at it. I mean, she could have been standing on the other side, but no, had to be standing right in front of it. I think they said we need to get rid of her really quickly, and so the TARDIS can break away from Sutek and save the day. So,
didn't you think it was like Yosemite Sam, where like Bugs Bunny lights a cannon? And Yosemite Sam sees the cannons going off, so sticks his head in it and then gets blasted. Of all the places you don't stick your head is into the laser, crazy.
Yeah, yes, it was an interesting sort of moment. What can I say? Right, there's only one R2D dictatorship. Yep. The TARDIS is a warship now. Well, yeah, it's got weapons apparently, and it's very funny because ultimately the Doctor's making this big song and dance about killing Sutek, and of course, I think the woman dies when this laser beam shoots through. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
So someone actually physically got killed, murdered, if you will, unarmed, murdered, like completely shot down in the TARDIS itself. So
don't worry, Dags. She was already half dead.
Well, there's that too. Yes, it is, as you said, it's a warship now. Exactly right. And the original Sonic Screwdriver prop was a whistle. Oh, well, there you go. Fancy that. Good stuff. All right. So anyway, what's his name? Sutek gets hooked on by an hockey strap. That's where you tie your luggage down on the roof of a car and onto his dog collar, and off they go, son.
Yeah, but they've explained it's a super strong, intelligent hockey strap, haven't they? So everything's fine. So in a scene that references National Lampoon's Vacation, they drag the dog behind them.
Oh, hang on. Is he died? Hang on. Where are you? You still there? Oh, my dude is frozen up right in the middle of a joke. Oh my goodness! You know what's happened? I bet you $50. Carl's turn. Yeah, are you back again?
And all good. You
Yeah, we
disappeared.
just lost you. We lost you right in the middle of a joke.
Oh,
Anyway, continue on.
what was I saying? I was saying it's in a scene reminiscent of National Lampoon's Vacation. They put the dog on the back of the vehicle and they drive off and drag him through the time vortex.
Yeah, well, there you go. A frozen challenger, absolutely fantastic. I like this one. Yeah, but she comes back when death kills death. This has got to be something that even I struggled with. I go, hang on, two negatives don't make a positive. It doesn't work that way. If something is dead, then getting death to undeath death doesn't work that way, kids. Once it's gone, it's gone. What that I thought was a
I
massive cop
actually
out.
imagine Russell T Davies saying something like that. We're going to get death to undeath death, but everyone like can't actually reply because he's too much of a dictator to actually take any feedback.
Yeah, that I thought was it made no sense. Once it's gone, kids. And as it turned out, everything comes back the way it was. That was pushing the boundaries, even for a Docky Who episode. It's like, yeah, but I know they had to do it. I get it. But and that was one of those things I said earlier on. They boxed themselves into a corner. How do we fix it? How do we get everything back the way it was, with no repercussions at all? Like everything's returning, and yeah, you undeath death. And I go, yeah, that one kind
Yeah.
of didn't really work.
No, again, a totally contrived ending. I felt after the build up for Sutek, he wasn't as powerful or nearly as strong as he should have been. And I just thought it was a total waste of the build up for the character and a really crap way to use him at the end.
Afraid so, and everything just returns happily the way it was. Now I can understand it. I mean, I understand why. I understand it, right? It's a TV show. Yeah, all the audience, the little kids go, "Oh my god, everything's dead. Oh, they're all back to good again. Life, it's all good." I can understand it if the ruling was everything that died stayed dead, but life can now come back, and then the universe just somehow rebuilds itself from because life finds a way. If you remember Jurassic Park, that would make
Mm.
sense. But to recreate everything back the way it was, that's kind of pushing the friendship a little bit. But I understand why they did it. But yeah, it's a bit unfortunate. That's why I said if it had to take an X amount of episodes to cover this off and somehow bring everybody back, it may have been a bit better than rather than half an hour after everybody's died. So yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, like we've just discussed, like death, bring death to death, and everything comes back to life. That's like shooting a ghost. It's not going to make the ghost come back to life, is it? And I've put the little picture up the top there of all the unit crew. Doesn't the guy look like Mini Me? I think on his little
It's
on
like
his
how
little
much did unit? Yeah, you say how much did the unit building cost to manufacture? $1 billion. Yeah, I get it. Love it. And so anyway, they fixed that problem, right? Fine, everybody's back to normal again. Blah blah blah. Let's get back to the real crux of what we've been stewing over for all this time. Who the hell is Ruby's mother? What's the deal with her? Is that right there, Mr. Aaron?
Well, there's a few mistakes here. They went to the future. They found who Ruby's mother was. She looks and says, "I don't understand who it is." They get a DNA match, unless the whole thing is faked for Sutek. But it does seem to me that Ruby really does get the answer and like doesn't understand it. And then that's all forgotten because they come back and unit can just do it anyway. And we get what I think is one of the biggest cop out endings in science fiction since Kylo Ren told
Red.
Rey that her parents were nobodies as well. And didn't everyone love that explanation? I mean, come on. We get that that she was a nobody. She was Louise Allison Miller. Now I have to say something here, Dags. This is an extra bad for me because when they said that, I cried. I actually cried because Louise Allison Miller, I thought they were saying was Lucy Miller, who traveled with the Eighth Doctor on the audio adventures. And all this season, they've been sort of saying, well, the comics exist and the books exist and the audios exist. And I thought they were going to actually make Ruby the Doctor's daughter, and like the Eighth Doctor, Paul McGann, had an affair with Ruby's mum, Lucy Miller. But nah, she's just a nobody, like nobody who. So here we go. It wasn't just me. Like
Yeah.
I actually thought they've actually done something that's changed the whole canon. Because at the beginning of the story, they talk about the Doctor doesn't have any children, and he's like, it's all complex for Time Lords. It all happens out of order. And I actually really thought, oh, that really hit me. He's actually had a daughter, Paul McGann. And the other thing, we've heard Paul McGann is going to do a spin-off series because there's going to be all these extra spin-offs for Doctor Who. And I thought, this is amazing. But no, and I actually think they did something where Russell T Davies has said, this is how it's going to be, and nobody is ever going to change it. And do you know what they did? They said she was only 15 years old, which means never in the future can you say it was the master, it was the doctor, because suddenly that character is a pedo for being with a 15-year-old. So I actually reckon they act, because I was thinking even for Disney Plus, a 15-year-old mother is pretty unusual to say, and a 15-year-old father. And I was thinking afterwards, you know why he's done that? Because you can never change that. You can never have, oh, we lied, it was someone else was the father, because then it's a 15-year-old. So you can't really have anyone we know be the.
Yeah.
So I did think, this is very deliberate and a way of almost giving the middle finger to fans.
Yeah, look, I hadn't thought of that because when they said it was a 15-year-old mother, you're thinking, well, who's the father? And you're right, if it's an adult, that's clearly breaking a lot of rules, definitely a lot of Disney rules, a lot of legal rules
Yeah.
as well. And it did seem unusual that after all this time, Ruby's mother was just no one. And I go, well, what was the big deal? Why was Sutek so hung up on this ordinary person?
Well,
And
that's the thing. And we've had just, the Jodie Whittaker era where there's been all this controversy of who is the timeless child and all of this. Wouldn't Sutek think that was a much bigger mystery to solve? There's been all this stuff with Sutek that would be. And Sutek, why couldn't he find Ruby's mother? Is it like she was just a normal person?
Yeah, so when you analyze it, aside from the fact that Ruby's been hanging out with the Doctor and traveling around the universe or whatever, she's just no one, right? And it still didn't explain, not that I can remember why they had the snowing and all the rest of what the deal was with that. But in the grand scheme of things, she's just a teenage girl, gives birth to a kid, drops it off at the church, everybody goes home, and that's into that. Caught on CCTV, done. And that's it. There need to be something else, unless there's something that's meant to occur later down the track and they find, oh, we didn't discover this until just now. But at the moment, it doesn't add up. So, yeah, there's something kind of weird about that.
And the Doctor is a big hypocrite where he gives this speech on how having a normal life and, having a normal job and everything is the most important thing of all. Yet it is the one thing he has run from and won't do himself.
Yeah. I don't know. It didn't work. And yeah, the whole pointing thing, right? Even I struggle with this one. She was pointing at a signpost, but she was there by herself. Where I didn't get this at all.
Well, this is the thing I absolutely hate because it does the thing in television, which I think cheats the audience, where I like to be able to at least work stuff out if there's clues. But in the previous episode, the road sign wasn't even on the signpost. So when she was pointing, it was just at a lamppost. And I nearly said maybe the lamppost is a TARDIS or something that they don't know. But in this one, they go, oh, we fixed up the video and Shazam. It's like got Ruby Road on. And she pointed at it, but she didn't know anyone was there. So she might have been trying to name her, but, it's more likely that she was found on Ruby Road, so they called her Ruby.
Yeah, you're right. So she points at a sign, but there's no one around, right? The kid's been dropped off at the front door of the church, and at this point, I don't recall, I think she's walking away when the kid gets picked up.
Yeah.
There's been a bending of the rules there. And I think it's designed, and I've said this multiple times on a lot of these shows, that this meant to be like for a younger audience watching it at face value who aren't joining the dots from way back when. They go, oh, she's this, oh, she's got that, not realizing that a lot of it makes no sense and is very superficial and it doesn't suit the full narrative of the story. So when you do go back and you say to someone, well, why was Sutek so hung up about Ruby and the mother? And they go, no, whatever. No, there's like nothing, zero, goose eggs as to why he should be, because at the moment, currently as it stands, Ruby's just a no one. And yes, it doesn't make a great deal of sense. And that's why I think they all said, box in the corner, rush it through, get the story out. It is what it is. So, yeah.
And the other thing here, this isn't a particularly bad sequence, but this is what I did. Sutek was defeated, and I go, there's 15 minutes of this episode left to go. What are we going to do? And it's all Ruby and the Doctor working stuff out. Now, I liked her departure scene. I thought that
Yep.
was good, and it was it was a good departure scene. I don't think you could have like 12 minutes of other stuff just to pad the episode out. I absolutely think Sutek should have been a bigger threat, and there should have been more put into what he was doing and how they defeated him, because I thought it almost seemed to me Sutek is the biggest threat the Doctor's ever had, and he puts a leash on him and gets rid of him really quick. It almost seems like they rushed through the exciting alien Doctor Who parts to get to the soap opera, fluffy, emotional parts, which I think is wrong.
Yeah. Doctor Who turned into Home and Away all of a sudden. It's kind of funny from my perspective as a complete outsider. I kind of got it. I dealt with it, and I really liked the bit at the end when Ruby catches up with the mother, and all that worked out well, right? I actually thought it was really well handled, really well written, and really well acted by. And like Paddy's going, "Oh my God, she's connecting with the mother. That's awesome. That's great." But when you look at it afterwards, you go, "Well, that's great for any other TV series." But for this show, it doesn't work because the focus was always on Sutek and the bad guys. But I think what they've done is intentionally bring the soppiness into it because, as I said, the younger audience, the first time viewers, are going to get hooked into that. In other words, the show is actually corrupting them from what the show is actually meant to be. If that makes a great deal of sense, if that makes any sense at all, which is a shame because it was a good moment, but it was in the wrong show to have that good moment. If that makes if I'm making sense at all, so.
Yeah.
Yes, I get it from your point of view completely. So guess what, fans? Believe it or not, that's the end of the bads. So we're done with the bads. We're now onto the uglies. There's only a handful of those. This is where we sort of question things or think, oh, what works, what doesn't work. And we're into the uglies and we're back to the dust, old son.
Yeah, well, we can go through this one quick because this was we talked about it earlier when you said, when they released the dust and they killed everyone, you just knew straight away they were all coming back. If half of them had got away, because the Doctor goes, go to Vault 16 or something, and if half of unit had survived and half have died, maybe you'd be thinking, oh, they've just like cleaned out some of the characters.
Yep.
But no. So I just thought it's a plot device. It wasn't horrible. It's always like interesting when you see the main characters die, but you knew straight away that it undermined the story.
Yeah, exactly right. We have covered it off. Yes.
Now, here's another one that's been through this whole series, and this is obviously going to go into next series. We've talked about in Boom how the little girl was like, Mum's gone to heaven, and it's so great. I haven't lost her; she's in heaven. And then in Dot and Bubble, you had the same thing where, oh, my mum's been taken up to heaven, and all of that. Now we've got, do you believe in the power of prayer? Then tell your Maker, I will come and storm down his gates of gold and seize his kingdom in my true name. And you've got Cherry Sunday saying, what are you talking about, you insane mad woman, kind of thing. And then she says, I'm very sorry, you tiny little man, I had such plans. And then Mrs. Flood disintegrates. So this is one of the mysteries that wasn't solved this series and obviously is going to be continued. And you know what? I don't have any confidence that Russell T Davies is going to be able to pull it off.
You know what? It's almost. I was just thinking a moment ago. If this is Russell T Davies has got the power of the universe, it is almost, dare I say, history repeating itself with George Lucas and the prequels, because you have all the power, you can do whatever you want, but that is not always a good thing, because sometimes you need people to say, "Dude, that is a really stupid idea. You shouldn't do that." But if everybody has to be yes, people, maybe that's actually a bad thing. So having too much power is actually detrimental to the product. Yep. Sorry.
It actually sounds like the Rip It Off the Card production meetings we had.
Exactly right. Anyway, so a bit more about the old Sutek design, dude.
Now, I put this in because I'm going to give Sutek's design a pass, because a lot of people go, it looks too CGI, it looks really fake, but there's a behind the scenes video, and I've got to say, when you see a picture of what they were doing, I actually think it looks quite good. I actually think they put a lot of work into it, and I do think it is a good modernization of the Jackal version of Sutek. It's just when they went from still pictures and models and 3D models to the actual realistic, it looked a little bit cartoony. But you know what? It wasn't the worst villain. It wasn't the worst special effects I've ever seen. And I do think if you look behind the scenes and have a look at it, you appreciate it a little bit more. I do wish they'd put the Sutek on the throne. You can see they wanted to bring back. They said they wanted to bring back a villain. I don't know if I've put it in one of the slides, but they actually said, "Oh, we didn't want to make it, so you could identify it with any god or deity or culture," which I think is really weird because Sutekh is Egyptian. Doctor Who team didn't like go and make stuff up and steal Egyptian stuff. The story was Sutekh influenced the ancient Egyptians, and that's why he looks Egyptian. And I did think that whole thing where they're mentioning cultural appropriation is just doesn't need to be bring into this episode in particular anyway.
Yeah, I think we bring it up a little bit later on. So we've still got Greg's comment to come to, and there's a couple of others we're going to jump into as well. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, this is a really interesting thing. This absolutely must have been deliberate, and it goes into there's something about the land of fiction, or there's something about words or names or something. This is the only season of Doctor Who. Every single name was name checked in the episode. So today's the Temple of My Empire of Death, and last week you had Rose or Ruby's mum saying, this is the legend of Ruby Rose when they've got the video.
Okay.
And Dot and Bubble was obvious, and Rogue was obvious. But and the thing, do you remember we said about space babies? It's ridiculous how many times they said space babies in the episode. I almost think, again, the production team were having a joke where they go, we're going to get the name of every episode in the episode. So we're going to start with space babies, but we're going to say it 30 or 40 times. But it is just one of those weird things with this season. No other season of Doctor Who has put the name of the episode in every episode.
Yeah, good observation, if not a little bit creepy, but there you go.
Now, this goes back to what the heck? It's like intelligent rope. The hook is a molecular bond. Now, I need those Oki straps for when I go on holiday that they can survive and the intelligent glove. Now, I didn't go and rewatch it, but did they drop the Mavity glove? Because they called it Mavity instead of Gravity in the first couple of episodes, and now it's the intelligent glove and the intelligent rope to walk your intelligent dog.
Well, the good thing is when you tie down your intelligent rope to Oki strap your luggage on the roof, if you're driving down the Hume Highway and at 100 k's an hour and it starts to get a bit loose, and the family go, hey, I think we're about to lose a suitcase. Don't worry, the intelligent rope will just tighten up by itself. It's all good. The intelligent Oki strap. How lucky is it they had one of those, eh? So, yeah, very, very funny. Hang on. Wait, how did Carla know the beast was in the last episode? Is Russell hiding answers again? What do you think?
Yeah, we discussed that, how I thought a good way to end this episode would be to destroy a god. The Doctor traps it under a black hole, and this is actually a prequel to the Satan pit, where the beast is Sutekh in the future, and the Doctor has trapped him there in this episode. I think that would have been a better ending, but no, we got destroyed in the vortex.
We did, and who copped it? The good old Daleks, eh? So I heard a rumor. I heard a rumor. Shooty's actually busting his chops to go up against the Daleks, and is trying to crack the sads that he's telling Russell that he wants that to occur. So anyway, go on.
This is the first series that the Daleks haven't been in since the show came back. There's been a couple of series where they only appeared in a scene or something, but this is the first one with no full episodes. Now, I speculated last episode that Mel's parents might have been killed by the Daleks, because she says my parents were killed by something terrible, and the Doctor helped fix that. And in this episode where the Doctor says Skaro is gone, and she says the Daleks are dead. So she does know about the Daleks and Skaro. So I could be right about that. We'll see. I guess that means Mel might be back in the next series as well.
Indeed. Very, very cool. All right. There's a couple of gaggy ones that you've chucked in. I've still got the comments to get to, so don't run away, fans. But yeah.
So what we have here is, it's one of those rare occasions where you see Australia getting destroyed. It doesn't happen very much in sci-fi. And there's me and Dags live on air getting dusted as Australia gets destroyed.
Yeah. So when we for those who are watching internationally, we are just down the bottom, right down there in Melbourne, right? So if we look out the window right about now, we'll see this dust come over the city, and that's the end of that. So very
Yeah.
very cool. So
And as
yeah,
soon as we
but
get dusted, you know who wouldn't be friends with us?
who?
Anakin.
Oh yeah, because he doesn't like sand. Is that right, dude? Because it's coarse and rough and
It's
gets
everywhere.
everywhere.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
there's a lot of
exactly.
parallels with Star Wars. Anyway, that's just a gag one.
All right. So, okay, then we've got comments about this one. I'm going to finally get to them, right? All right. So, never understood about all that Egyptian stuff. Cultural appropriation. There's a comment way back up here. Pearl Greg said this ages ago, right? Did you catch where Ruby asked about the Egyptian stuff and the doctor says cultural appropriation? I don't think that Ruby would have understood this as the Egyptian stuff was Osirian tech. So the ancient Egyptians were the ones who culturally appropriated from the Osirians. Interesting.
Well, exactly. And the other thing is, a lot of this was based on Van is it Van Eric Van Danken's Chariots of the Gods, where the ancient gods were actually astronauts and aliens from other planets. And this was during the 70s where that was really sort of gaining some, I guess, popularity amongst sci-fi fans and stuff like that. I tell you what, if Russell T Davies doesn't like Pyramids of Mars because of cultural appropriation, he's not going to have a Stargate marathon, is he?
Yes, indeed. But yeah, that is kind of funny. Yeah, in Doctor Who, yeah, the Egyptians actually got their tech from somewhere else. So that's back at you, son, if ever there was one. So yeah, indeedy doody dotty. And I think we're almost at the end, actually, believe it or not. But we've still got a couple more pictures to show.
We're getting there. Now, if Sutek's been in the TARDIS all this time, what about all the episodes where the TARDIS explodes? Because there have been a couple of episodes where the TARDIS gets destroyed. It goes back to Frontios, which is a Fifth Doctor story. I think that's the first time the TARDIS after Sutek is meant to have exploded. It's gone back to Event 1 and stuff like that, but never exploded. Where was Sutek hiding? In the hat stand, which is one of the things that survived. The other thing, in the Pandorica opens, the TARDIS explodes and it destroys the entire universe with it. Does Sutek come out and go, my work here is done because all life is dead because the TARDIS exploded and destroyed the universe? No, he keeps playing possum, even though his plans have come to fruition without him. And what about when the TARDIS became a woman? Didn't the woman say, and I've got like this dog on my spine, and say Sutek's in there? And
Oh, dude.
even Vincent van Gogh painted the TARDIS exploding. So what happened to Sutek every time that happened? Does he disappear back into the vortex and then come back out when it's all good again?
See, I can imagine you posting this on a blog somewhere, people just shaking their heads going, oh my God, freaking Docky Who fans, mate, you shit me to tears.
Well, I
They're
can't
all
believe
valid questions, but nobody wants to answer them.
we've still got
Oh my
7
God.
people watching. That's what I find unbelievable.
Yeah, very, very cool. TARDIS also became a whale during the Fifth Doctor audio, so have fun with that. Sutek riding a whale TARDIS. Well, he could be straight out of Camino and Star Wars. He could be one of the dudes riding it. Oh, dude, don't try and rationale this shit with logic, man. It's just the TV show. Oh dear. Oh dear. This is the stupidity of the Sutek on top stuff. Yeah, exactly right. I mean, what if Sutek's up there having a snooze and the TARDIS is going for a bowl? Hey! Oh, cheapers creepers. Anyway, yes, they're very
I
valid
like the
questions.
idea. I like the idea if Sutek has all the secrets of the TARDIS, and he looks up. Oh, so the Brigadier wears female underwear under his uniform.
Yes. Oh, I've found a stash of videotapes. I wonder what happens to be on. What's this chicka chicka bow wow music? Anyway, like, oh my God, unbelievable. Yes. Anyway.
Now, here's some speculation. When Mrs. Flood comes back, she says, "Oh, that clever boy," and we have heard that in Doctor Who before. We heard it all the time from Clara. Run, you clever boy. And remember, all the time she was with the Doctor, she called him the clever boy. But you know what was the interesting thing about that? The first time she said it, she looked dead at the camera and broke the fourth wall. And that's what Mrs. Flood has been doing. So maybe
Yeah.
um, Clara didn't die. She was saved in her last heartbeat and went off traveling in her own TARDIS. Maybe Mrs. Flood will be Clara.
There you go. We shall watch this space. I've still got a few more comments to get to, but we're getting through it all.
So we went through this before, the whole Lucy Miller thing. Lucy Miller was the Eighth Doctor's companion, and she was played by Sheridan Smith, who's quite an accomplished television actor and stage actor in Britain. And the character they showed looked very like her. And I do think at one point they must have been having Louise Miller was going to be Lucy Miller. There is no way Russell T Davies, who's a massive Doctor Who fan, would not know about that character, because he's written for the audios and books and all of this kind of stuff. So I do think it is one of those things where it's, again, almost disrespectful to the audience who knows this, that he plays around with it and then gives us something that's inferior to where it could have gone.
Unless, I don't know, it could have been a rights issue. I got no idea. But
I've got
theories.
So we'll see.
Clara alive again. Time Lord's back to life since death killed death. Yeah, I know. As we've discovered, there's a fair bit of inconsistency with the logic behind it all. And we go back to this planet, which apparently we've seen before.
Well, I don't know if we've seen it before, but for some reason, this planet, Aguea, I can't remember what the other name is. It's covered by the logo. The Doctor makes Santina makes a point of saying that planet's back because it's obviously where the kind woman is from. Now, you see the kind woman, and she's got the little baby, and it's in yellow. Now, the Timeless Child wore very, very similar clothing, and that's why I do think, were they going to set up some Timeless Child rubbish, and they dumped it at the last minute? But I would have preferred, because I don't like? I don't like when they set stuff up and you get invested in it, and then they never mention it again, or they bring it up once in a while, but they never actually complete it. It's one of those things that's very frustrating in Doctor Who. And I did think if Russell T Davies finished off the Timeless Child storyline, which everyone thought was like flushed down the toilet when Chibnall left, that would be a good thing, even if it's just not to leave loose ends hanging. I would appreciate that. And it seems like, again, we've been teased, but they didn't actually go there.
Causer said, so last Christmas, old Clara from Dream Crab is not accurate then if she looks like Mrs. Flood at the end. That's a question.
So, but last Christmas was before the Dream Crab, unless, which I think would be absolutely awesome, if they woke up and everything after the Dream Cat Crab was in our imagination and Peter Capaldi and Clara was still the Doctor and Clara. That would be a dream, but I don't see it happening.
Cool. 2 pictures left. Your conspiracy theories, old son.
So my conspiracy theory is this. I don't know if people noticed, but the last scene with the Doctor and Millie suspiciously looked like they weren't on the set. It looked like they were green screen. Now, I don't know if you noticed that. She walked through the TARDIS, and then the wall behind her for the rest of that monologue looked like it was filmed on a green screen. It was a very good one, but I think it was green screen, which says to me that the end of the episode was changed around a bit. And what I think has actually happened, I think they were going to go for the Doctor was Ruby was the Doctor's daughter and the whole Paul McGann connection. And I think they were actually going to go there, and then Disney pulled the money. And at the last minute, they had to change the last scene. I don't know that. It's just there's so many little clues and stuff. And then for the last scene of like pretty much a uniformly good-looking series, like as in production standards, to just scream of green screen on one of the more important scenes for the whole show, the departure of the companion. I'm like, I wonder what the original ending was. The ending was definitely changed.
Yeah, that gives the impression you are right. They've done the editing and whatever else. They go, oh, we need a pickup shot. Got the actress back, stuck in front of a screen, and gone that way. You could be right, actually. If you sort of know people who know, if you know a guy who knows what's going on, you might be able to find out the truth. And not only to find out the truth, but to find out why things would change. And I wouldn't be surprised if, you're right, Russell T or Disney or someone had a hand in it. Something occurred somewhere. So that's true. So, yeah.
We were meant to have got the announcement of the first spin-off series the week after 73 Yards is what I heard, and it never happened, which makes me think a lot of stuff has changed, in the last couple of weeks behind the scenes. Anyway, I have some ears I will be trying to put some words into and see if I can get a reply.
Cool. No worries. And so you speak of that, Mrs. Flood.
Now, here's
Shot of the thing.
another wild card of who she could be. There was a companion who we don't know if she's alive or dead or what in the canon of the TV series called Romana. And the first version of Romana, in her very first story, wore a costume which is very, very close to what Mrs. Flood is wearing there. So it could be the Rani, Rain, Flood,
Yeah,
anagram
said that before.
Rani. Could be Clara, Run You Clever Boy, or it could be Romana. So again, I do think Russell T Davies would be doing this deliberately because he's as big a fan as we are, and he knows all these things, and he knows there'll be speculation. The off chance it could be Missy. She came down like with the umbrella as an evil Mary Poppins in one episode, but I mean, she's not around anymore. So there's some speculation there. There's serious speculation this week, nothing to do with soft serve ice cream.
Very cool. Now, I can finally get back to some of my comments because, believe it or not, that's the end of the slides. And in a moment, we'll be doing the old Rotten Time Lords and Aaron will be rating the episode. But before we get to that, this was mentioned way back up here. I have done that. So, Guy said, the whole series has been one inconsistent mess, a constant inconsistent mess. I really dislike this moving away from some very good and adhered to rules, let stuff the whole thing up by breaking everything it's good for. Yeah, that's fair enough. Consistently inconsistent is probably a very good explanation. Colin has asked, he asked his ages ago. Hang on. Sorry.
Yes.
With the series now wrapped, what do you think was the best episode? You answered before I get to the other answer. Go for it.
Well, I'll answer both. I think Guy is 100% spot on. This series has had some real highs and some real lows. Like, there's not much in between. I've either really loved the episodes or just really not liked them at all. I would say for me, probably the best episode was The Legend of Ruby Sunday, just because it ratcheted up the tension and was like a classic good Doctor Who episode, and it ended with a return villain. And I did like Dot and Bubble and 73 Yards as well. I thought they were both great episodes, but I would probably have to say, and I think you'd agree, Legend of Ruby Sunday.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, that was an absolute ripper. That was last week's one. But I knew when they set it up to be like, oh my God, this is an impossible situation, trying to repeat the success in terms of resolving the story, it was going to be, funnily enough, impossible. I think that's where we're at that. So yes, in regards to your ratings there, Mr. Aaron, well, how did you rate the old Empire of Death?
Well, wasn't as bad as Rogue, and it was better than Space Babies. So I probably have to give it a 4 out of 6 on the rotten meter.
Oh, there you go. So that's not too bad then. So yes.
Look, I've been pretty hard on it, but that's because it had so many expectations. It wasn't an absolute stinker of an episode. It was watchable.
It wasn't, but the question is, was it crinoid fresh?
It's not being certified crinoid fresh, not a chance.
Oh, there you go. So it's very funny. So as I said, like last week when they finished on this absolute cliffhanger, and you go, yeah, they're going to be having a lot of trouble trying to resolve this, right, to make it work and to keep the same consistent tension that we just had in this previous episode. And I knew it was going to struggle. I found it entertaining. I found it enjoyable, and I kind of got it, even though I got lost in the logic of what was occurring. But some of the really good bits, especially towards the end, kind of work for me. But I can see where someone like yourself, who really knows his stuff backwards, to go, yeah, it's just, as you said, consistently inconsistent, which is unfortunate. And it's possibly why, and you're not the only one, because clearly other people have seen through it as well and said, nah, it's a terrible finale. I mean, I found it surprising. People saying the last episode was complete rubbish. They didn't like it at all. I'm thinking, really? Oh, I was really surprised by that. But now I understand why. So, very unfortunate.
Interesting.
But,
It's disappointing for me because I have to say, for the last week, hardly got any work done in the shop because there was always someone in the shop wanting to talk about Doctor Who, what was going to happen. Isn't it amazing? What a great episode. Sutek's back. So real excitement, real genuine excitement and anticipation of this episode for the first time in a long, long time. And then to go from that to this week, they dropped the ball. I can't believe they did that. They didn't answer this. Like, the Doctor didn't do this. The Doctor cried to it. It is disappointing for me. It is a roller coaster of emotion because I'm very emotionally attached to this show.
Yeah, I think in the end, if the Sutekh story had gone as it was, and you go, oh, yeah, whatever. But if the Ruby thing and the mother thing had a real punch to it, like you said. It was the daughter of a doctor from way back when or whatever. To finish on that real big pow, did not see that coming. That is the grousest thing ever. You probably could have got away with it. And you go, okay, the Sute thing stuff, whatever. It's some illogical moments, but this other part is made up for it. It's great. But when one is questionable, and then the second one is questionable, and you go, well, what's left for me to grab onto to say that's awesome? Aside from this last Mrs. Flood bit at the end, it was kind of flat, and I can see why people would be like, well, I'm not invested anymore. You've just shot me down in flames. So.
And the Mrs. Flood bit I thought was interesting, but I still don't like breaking the fourth wall and talking directly to the audience. So
yeah. So in the end, it had the potential, like last week's episode, of just being an absolute ballpark knocked out, wackadoo. This is awesome, and it kind of didn't in its own mess. When I first saw the running time was 55 minutes, I thought, oh, there's a bit of time spent on this one too, which is good. And it's just they cut corners in the end, and I think that was done either at the direction of Disney or for the sake of the audience to say, nah, simplified, keep it simple, focus on the home and away material, get the Sutek thing wrapped up quickly, and we're all good to go. So, but it didn't. As they say in the classics, you can fool some of the people all the time, but not all the people some of the time, but not all the people all the time, and that is what occurred with these in this scenario. So there you go. Well, guess what, Mr. Aaron? That actually wraps us up, believe it or not. Is there any final words before we get ready to sign off for this evening on our last episode of our series?
No, thanks for doing this. I know Doctor Who is not a show that you watch, but I hope you've enjoyed doing reviews of Docky Who.
Yeah, someone asked me in the store not that long ago, has this now got me psyched up to go back and watch all these other series of Docky Who? And nope. And am I losing any sleep over the fact the show's finishing? Nope. But I get where people are coming from. Before we do go, and I'll get to you in a second. Oh, you go on. You go first.
Will we be back for the Christmas special?
Oh, God, hope not. I mean, look what you did to me with friggin' Legend of the Sea Devils. I'm never going to forgive you for that. If you haven't done so already, be sure to check out the Sci-Fi Zone socials on YouTube and Instagram and blah, 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 blah. And, of course, if you want to talk about the old Docky Who series as well as the last episode, even us, there's only one place to go, Mr. Aaron, and that is your shop.
It is. I do think we have the biggest collection of Doctor Who merchandise for sale in Victoria, maybe Australia, since the Doctor Who shop closed. I'm not sure. But you know what? It doesn't matter about the merchandise because you can come in and talk to me, and I'm the one that makes it all worthwhile.
Totally agree with you. I'm just going to say, who's going to be the first person who's going to walk in and go, I've got some officially merchandised Ocky straps, Docky Who logo, officially endorsed. These are intelligent, or whatever the word was, rope. Mate, whenever you have a problem with your Sutex, just hook him on one of these puppies and we're all good to go.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to go into Bunnings and get them. I'm going to make up tags and call them Docky Ockies.
See? Oh, dude, that is just awesome. Docky Ockies, you heard it here first, fans. If you want to buy them, be sure to check out your local Aaron's Collectibles. Docky Ockies, good for any occasion. Don't worry. You're trying to destroy the god of the universe. He's trying to kill everything. Mate, go the Docky Ocky. We'll have an ad commercial by the end of the week, so absolutely love it. With that in mind, we're going to wrap up. Thanks for everybody joining us and waffling. We'll be here for an hour and a half, so that's the end of the series. That's the end of us. Hopefully everybody enjoyed our wafflings. And we'll see you all potentially next time. What do you reckon, Mr. Aaron? I'll catch you later.
Or earlier. See you.
Okay, Docky Ockies. You heard it here first. Okay, don't everybody think of painting that name either. That's ours, right? Yeah, that's a Aaron's Collectible special. All right, take care, guys. All the best. Bye-bye.
Have a good night.